I'm so glad all of you are here today. I know there are a lot of things you could be doing on a beautiful, snowy Saturday morning. But what happens in 2020 is not just about the next 4 years or the next 8 years. This is the direction our country takes for generations to come. So we all know that New Hampshire is going to be a critical part of the decisions we make, and thank you for making the investment and the time to be here. I thought what we do this morning is I tell you a little bit about myself. I'd also introduce you to my husband, Bruce, who's here. Where are you, sweetie? Oh, in the back with his hand out. Here he is. Tell you a little bit about myself, tell you a little bit about why I'm in this race, and I'm just going to cut it short and see if we can take as many questions as possible, so I'm talking about the things that are most on your minds. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. Dead silence. One man, right, one, there you go, one person. There aren't that many, oh, we got two. There we go, Altus Air Force Base, we got two. There aren't that many Okies. Three, we're adding up here. I am what used to be called a late in life baby. I have three much older brothers who are retired. They're all back in Oklahoma. To this day, they are referred to as the boys. I was always referred to as the surprise. It took me a few years to figure out what that meant, but I did figure it out eventually. All of my life, I have known what I wanted to do. My three brothers, they all went off and joined the military. It was their opportunity to be part of America's middle class and their opportunity to be able to serve. When we were growing up, our daddy had had a lot of different jobs. He sold paint, he sold carpet, he sold fencing, he sold housewares. By the time I was in middle school, the boys were all gone. It was just my mama and my daddy and me. By the time I graduated from high school, my family was stretched to the edges. I knew what I wanted to be. I've wanted to be the same thing since I was in second grade. I wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for America's people? I want you to know I invested early. I used to line my dollies up and teach school. I had a reputation for being tough but fair. I really was. This is what I wanted. But like I was saying, by the time I graduated from high school, my family didn't have the money to send me to 4 years at university. They didn't have the money for a college application. So like a lot of Americans, I have a kind of twisty-turny story. So here's how my story goes. I was a high school debater, and I got a scholarship to college. Woohoo! Yeah. And then at 19, I fell in love, got married, and dropped out. Woohoo! Not to that guy. Up in season 2. It was what I'd chosen to do. But I thought I'd given up on the dream, that I'd never have a chance to teach public school. And we're living down in Houston, Texas. We're living right outside Houston. And then I found it. A commuter college that cost $50 a semester. And for a price I could pay for on a part-time waitressing job, I finished my 4-year diploma and I became a special education teacher. I have lived my dream job. Now, we need public school teachers in here. Oh, good. Oh, man, we got a bunch. Good. Fabulous. So I'm going to need you to back me up on this. It's not a job, it's a calling. I love this work. I had special education students 4 to 6 years old, most of them pre-verbal, high school, yeah. I love those children, and I loved that work. And probably I would still be doing it today, but like I said, my story has twists and turns. So here's the twists and turns in mine. By the end of my first year, I was visibly pregnant. And the principal did what principals did in those days. Wished me luck and hired someone else for the job. So there I am. I'm at home. I got a little baby now. Can't get a job. I gotta do something. So I will go to law school. We're living in New Jersey. I found a state law school. Cost $450 a semester. Baby on hip. I go off and do 3 years of law school. Graduate from law school, visibly pregnant. You will discover a pattern to these stories. And took the bar and practiced law for 45 minutes. Yeah. I traded little ones for big ones and spent most of my grown-up life teaching in law school. Made other changes in my life. Husband number one, hint, never good when you have to number your husbands. Husband number one and I parted ways, but I have Bruce and I've held on to him ever since. So, I'm on you too. So like I said, I'm teaching in law school. I don't know if it's because I grew up in a family that was kind of hanging on to our place in the middle class by our fingernails. But for me, it was always about the money courses. If it was about money, I wanted to learn it, I wanted to master it, I wanted to teach it. So I taught contract law and commercial law, secured transactions, payment systems, corporate finance, partnership finance, law and economics, debtor-creditor law, bankruptcy law. If it was about money, you could count on me. I was in the middle of it. But there was always one central question that I worked on, and that central question was, what's happening to working families in America? Why is America's middle class being hollowed out? Why is it that people who work every bit as hard as my mom and dad worked 2 generations ago, today find the path so much rockier and so much steeper? And for people of color, even rockier and even steeper. And the answer is who government in Washington works for. Think of it this way. We have a government that works great for giant drug companies. It just doesn't work for people who are trying to get a prescription filled. It works great for people who want to make money investing in private prisons and private detention centers. It's just not working for the people whose lives are destroyed by those places. We have a government that works great for giant oil companies that want to drill everywhere, just not for the people who see climate change bearing down upon us. And when you see a government that works great for those with money, and it's not working so well for anyone else, that is corruption pure and simple, and we need to call it out for what it is. For president is all about. It is about taking on the corruption, and you wouldn't be shocked to hear this. I have a plan for that. Taking on the corruption, restructuring our economy, protecting our democracy. For me, that's what the heart of this 2020 race is going to be all about. So why don't I pause there and just get as many questions as we can get in, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll do the key part, and that is selfies. All of the fun. I think we drew numbers ahead of time, is that right? Yes. So you got it? Hi.
This is Harvey.
Hi, Harvey.
Hi. First of all, I really like your work on the Consumer Protection Bureau.
Oh, good. I love people.
Can't imagine why anyone wouldn't, but except for well-to-do, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sounds like there's been some difficulty with you describing how you would pay for Medicare for all. I wondered if you could clarify where you're at on that.
Sure, you bet. So let me just start with a kind of overview, and that is healthcare is a basic human right, and we fight for basic human rights. I think the best way to deliver healthcare for the lowest possible cost to the most people is Medicare for all, and I think that should be our goal. There's a question about how we should pay for it. Most of the other candidates seem to think the way we'd have to do that is to raise taxes on middle-class families. I don't think that's how we should do it. Middle-class families have been stretched hard enough, long enough. Working families have been stretched hard enough, long enough. So for me, I just figured out another way to pay for it. And the way to pay for it is to ask those at the top to pay a little more. And the three places that most of the money comes from is the top 1% in this country. Ask them to pay a little more. Giant corporations, particularly those who are paying no taxes, are the ones who should be paying more. By the way, yes, Amazon, I'm looking at you. Reported $11 billion. The third, I just want to say, my particular personal favorite is how much money we could raise by hitting the tax cheats a little harder. Yeah. The people who are cheating on their taxes at the top, I say we hire some more folks for the IRS. By even a third, we can produce revenue that we can put in to Medicare for all. So for me, it's just about who ought to bear this cost. And I think middle-class families have been squeezed hard enough, long enough. I want to see the cost borne by those at the top, and I want to see some relief for tens of millions of people across this country. So there it is. Okay, who we got next?
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I want to know.
Tell me your name.
My name is Kiara Eisner.
Hi, Kara. It's
Hi.
nice to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm a journalist.
And
I'd like to know what steps you would take if you were elected president to build back freedom of the press and public trust in the press.
Okay. You know, this is such a powerfully important question. We have built a democracy on the premise of a free and independent press. We count on a press coming in from the outside and holding our leaders accountable, doing the independent investigation, holding the rich and powerful's feet to the fire, but particularly our political leaders. It is a critical part of who we are and what we do. And it is part of the reason I want to call out in particular the death of Khashoggi at the hands of the Saudis. It's not only that the Saudi government and the Saudi leader was clearly involved, the evidence shows clearly involved in killing someone who was working in the United States and of course ends up in Saudi Arabia, but it's that it was a journalist. It's that a powerful political regime said, who threatens us the most? It's a journalist. It's someone who investigates and who is determined to reveal the truth. And that ultimately is what undermines dictatorships. It's what undermines the powerful who are trying desperately to hang on to power. So I believe we need a free and independent press. Part of it is I don't think the President of the United States should be directly attacking the press. How about that one for an opener? I don't think the President of the United States should be withdrawing press credentials from doing investigative journalism, but to do because the president doesn't like the coverage that he's getting. I think we have to support that. I also want to just mention one more part. I'm really worried about buying up the press, different outlets. particularly what this means for local reporting. We talk about this some at the national level and a president who's clearly trying to undermine a free press. But it also matters in small towns. It matters in rural communities. It matters, shoot, it's starting to matter in mid-sized and big cities. When you lose the local press, you lose local accountability. You lose someone who really will investigate what school board is up to. Look, and most of the time they're doing good stuff, but it's good to have the press there to check it out and to make sure that everyone is informed. So this is a place where we could have a direct effect in policy. The mergers that the Department of Justice continues to approve that just mean fewer and fewer reporters at the local level and more predigested one point of view that's being shoved into the system by a bunch of local newspapers that are all, in fact, not local anymore and all owned by one national outfit, not only undercuts competition, it undercuts our free press. So I'll enforce that. Hi,
Hi, my name is Taylor Porro.
Tim?
My name is, I have a minor speech impediment.
That's
My
okay.
name is Taylor Porro. My question's on student loans. With the government's, when the ACA was passed, there was a provision that called for debt elimination for 10 years of service in nonprofit and governmental sectors. But right now, the Trump administration, Betsy DeVos, aren't honoring that. My question is, one, if you were the president, would you follow the law and honor that? And two, would you consider reducing it down to, say, 5 years to help out with debt elimination? Because you may have been able to get a semester for $50. I couldn't get a book for $50.
Completely up to speed on this one. We passed a law in the United States that basically said people going to public service, teachers, firefighters, police officers, municipal government employees, could work for 10 years, paying in on their student loans, and at the end of 10 years, whatever they hadn't paid off, as long as they'd made their regular payments, the remainder would be forgiven. So a lot of people planned their lives around that and said, you know, I'll take this lower paying job. Light at the end of the tunnel. There'll be some relief on the student loans. Turns out our federal government, through the Department of Education, hired a bunch of folks to manage these student loans. And when someone came in and said, I'm a public school teacher, I'll be sure to get put in the right program, they'd say, and put them in the wrong program. And when did you find that out? After 10 years. Mm-hmm. So the position of the Department of Education has been, hey, I'm sorry, you want to be in that program? Sure, we'll start you today, and 10 years from now, you can get rid of whatever debt you have left. I believe this is outrageous. These were agents of the United States government who got these people into the wrong programs. So I started fighting 2 years ago, got money set aside so that we could expand the debt relief to cover people who believed they were in the right program, had done everything they were supposed to do, and there would be enough money that their student loans would be forgiven as well. So far, Betsy DeVos's response to that has basically been, I think you put it the right way, just not to follow the law. She has denied people who are applying under this program to, I think it's 99% of the folks who've come in have not been able to get the debt relief. So, part one, will I follow the law for what's there? Yes, and do debt relief. But let me do the second part of your question if I can. This is going to make a longer answer, but I think it's really important. Let me start here. It is time for a wealth tax in America. We just got to do this. It's time. And let me tell you how this works. A tax on fortunes above $50 million. So your first $50 million is free and clear, right? Some of you are saying, this woman is not unreasonable, right? First 50 mil is free and clear, but your 50 millionth and first dollar, you pitch in 2 cents. And 2 cents on every dollar above that. By the way, anybody in here own a home or grew up in a family that owned a home? You've been paying a wealth tax. It's just called a property tax because that is the principal wealth of middle-class working families, right? All I'm saying is for the top 0.1%, this is fortunes above 50 million, your wealth tax should include your real estate, but also your stock portfolio, the cash, yacht. That's the basic idea. Now, you may have heard, take an exception to this. This is an unpopular plan among many of the billionaires. Some, it's true, it's true. Others have called their friends and said, will you run for president? You know. But here's the thing, they say, you know, I worked hard for my money, and my answer is, good for you. You had a great idea, you followed it through, you know, got it at the right moment, good for you. But if you built a great fortune here in the United States, I guarantee you built it at least in part using workers all of us help pay. Yeah. You built it to market on roads and bridges. You built it by police and firefighters. All of us help pay the salaries for. And here's the thing, we're glad to do it. We're Americans, we believe in making these investments in opportunity. All we're saying is when you make it big, I mean really big, I mean top 0.1% big, pitch in 2 cents so everybody else gets. With 2 cents. 2 cents. We could do universal child care for every baby in this country aged 0 to 5. Think about that. Universal pre. And we could stop the mostly women, mostly black and brown women who do this work. We could raise the wages of every child care worker. We can do all of that for 2 cents, plus we can make an historic $800 billion investment in our public schools from the federal government. Think about that. All of our schools. Lots of details in this, but a former special ed teacher has to throw this one in. It would also include full funding for the first time ever for IDEA, so children with disabilities would get the full education they need. All that for K-12, same 2 cents, plus we could provide universal, tuition-free, technical school, 2-year college, 4-year college for anybody who wants an education. Anybody. Level the playing field and put $50 billion into our We can do all of that. Cancel student loan debt for 4 months. There we go. Loan forgiveness time? Yes, but I don't want to shorten it to 5 years. I want to shorten it to 1 day. All right, let's do student loan debt.
Going to be. Farming industry.
Yeah.
I have concerns about the state of family farming and the broader impacts, including the rise of suicides on farmers. On the connected second part, what's your position on ag laws, its impact on our food quality and animal abuse? If there's any place in the federal regulations on this issue, I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that.
Good. All right, this is good. I got a lot of plans. We got a problem in this country, and the problem is giant corporations. You know these corporations. They've swallowed up little businesses. They've swallowed up medium-sized businesses. They've swallowed up what used to be big businesses. And the problem is how much power that gives them to control an industry. So they now have the power to run over their employees, the power to run over their consumers, the power to run over the communities where they're located, power in Washington, the power to call the shots in Washington. So let me lay out the general principle. We need a president who has the courage to enforce our antitrust laws and break up Big Ag. Big Ag has squeezed out the family farms, and they've done it in multiple ways. They are basically, and you can do this from a lot of different perspectives, basically most farmers now can buy seed from 1 or 2 places. Most farmers now can sell their product to 1 place, right? That's how this chain works. So the farmer gets stuck in the middle, taking all the risk, doing the really hard work. But family farms, independent farms, are just increasingly hanging on by their fingernails. So part of what we need to do is break up Big Ag on the 2 ends. So you've got more sellers, you've got more buyers, you just get a more competitive market going. That's going to be helpful for our independent farms. Second part about our independent farms, and it also relates to Big Ag. All Big Ag cares about is yield. Just how many bushels of corn you've got, right? How many bushels of cane you've got, whatever it is that they want to see. And this has forced a lot of farmers to engage in high intensity farming practices that are bad for the land. And they know it's bad for the land, bad for the environment. So you end up with crops so densely packed together on the land that 2 things happen simultaneously. That it's raining and flooding because the water hits the ground and washes off enough. The soil is not exposed enough. And at the same time, the water table is going down because the Big Ag hog farming, for example, is sucking more water out of the water table. So you end up with the worst of both worlds, right? A lot of runoff and zooming down. And at the same time, the long-term stability, the water that's seeped through for centuries, is not being replenished. So this is an environmental issue. This is a climate issue. I want to make the investment from Washington, not in Big Ag, which is what happens right now because they've got so much power in Washington to write the farm bill. I want to make an investment in independent farms and make it financially possible for them to follow best practices so they can be the stewards of the land that they want to be, so they can be on the front edge of helping us in the fight against climate change, and we can have farmers lead this fight and use sustainable farming practices and make food available locally. Does that help? Hi, Christine.
About climate again. 'Cause we
Good,
already
that's
talked about
that's
it. In the general election.
yes. Oh, I like this. All right. So, markets without rules. Be willing to have reasonable. People get that. I think most people, not just Democrats, I think Democrats and Republicans get that. They, remember the three brothers I talked about? He's a Democrat. Do the math. But I talked to all three. A Democrat and two Republicans furious that Amazon reported $11 billion in profits and paid zero in taxes. That makes them furious. They know it isn't right. And here's the thing, talking about corruption, which is what I've been talking about race, and this is what I'm going to run on, is against a Washington that works for those at the top and doesn't work for anyone else. That scrambles the table on where the old left-right politics used to be. Now it's about who keeps getting wealthier in this economy. People work hard, they play by the rules, and find year after year after year, it's just getting tougher. The parents who realize their kids are not going to be able to buy the houses that they bought. They're not going to have a chance to be able to start their own businesses because they're getting crushed by student loan debt. Can't move back to small towns because they can't get childcare, because community hospitals are closing. They get it. The wealth is going to the top. And what we need to change that is we just need to enforce our antitrust laws. We need to pass an anti-corruption bill to get rid of the influence of money in Washington. By the way, I have a plan for that. And here's the thing about this. The anti-corruption plan. Here's the good news. It is the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. Here's the bad news. We need the biggest anti-corruption plans. Let me just tell you, because money is felt everywhere in Washington. Yeah, it's campaign contributions, but it's so much more. It's the lobbyists, it's the lawyers, it's the PR firms, it's the bought and paid for experts, it's the so-called think tanks, it's all the ways that the folks at the top, the folks who are putting in the multi-million-dollar contributions, the way their interests are being advanced, the way corporate interests are being advanced. So let me just give you a couple of samples out of what that bill is about. Part one, end lobbying as we know it. Block the revolving anybody who wants to run for federal office returns online. Democrats and Republicans get that. They get what's broken. So I get it. They'll try name calling. But I believe we run this presidential as a contrast between the corruption that has gone on for years, but that has accelerated with the Trump administration. We run that contrast against campaign in which you can see who the donors are, you can see Who's getting any special access? Answer, nobody, right? We run that contrast, then I think there are a lot of folks who are going to understand that and be with us in that fight, regardless of whether their political affiliation is Democrat, Independent, or Republican.
Much longer than many other places. 4873.
All right.
They'll just go back.
Just going back, yeah.
4867. 4867.
So I was in Iowa City, and a lady very timidly raised her hand after we called it 3 times, and she said, it's my number, but I put my used gum in it. It still works.
83.
Persist.
All right. Woohoo.
We've got them trained well.
Yeah,
4851.
it's fair. Persist. We got another one.
4891.
Woo!
Very good. And one more. 4829.
All right. Fabulous. Thank you, Chuck. All right. Who have we got?
Hi, Senator.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
My name is Amar.
Fashion choice.
Thank you.
Good.
And any sort of changes we can start making in how we view substance use disorders
Yes.
and the criminal justice system.
Yes.
And one of the reasons I'm wearing this shirt is because you have released a very comprehensive plan in regards to your criminal justice
Yep.
initiatives. So what I wanted to know though is this. There's a saying that all politics are local. Unfortunately, the same really does apply to criminal justice. The way we treat substance use disorders across this country varies from state to state, and even within the state of New Hampshire, it varies from this county of Stratford to the county of Rockingham, just right next door. And in terms of how people view whether or not incarceration is an appropriate avenue for people suffering from drug addiction. So my question to you is, how do you intend on incentivizing states and municipalities into believing that drug addiction is something to be cured with public health options rather than the criminal justice system? And overall, how do you plan on changing the conversation from incarceration to treatment?
Oh, that is a great question. So let me. 193 people will die today from substance abuse. It's like a plane crash. And it will happen again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, until we make real change in this country. The problem on substance abuse is not that we don't know what to do. We got a pretty good idea of what it takes to help people. It's not to say we shouldn't do more research on it. I'm all in favor of that. But we've got a pretty good idea. The problem is nobody wants to spend the money. So I have a plan for that. And it's important. There it is. Warren has a plan for that. Where you are in it. Right now, substance abuse is often criminalized. And I understand there are places where people do commit crimes who are substance abusers. But it's criminalized because it's easier to pay for jails than it is for treatment. And that's wrong. You know, I talked to my County in Massachusetts, Steve Tompkins. And he told the point that well over 80% of the people that he had locked up in the county jail were either had mental health issues, substance abuse issues, or both. That he was the biggest treatment provider. And that makes no sense at all. It is not good for people who are caught in the web of addiction. It is not good for their families. It's not good for the rest of us. So here is my proposal. I put together a plan with Congressman Elijah Cummings, who recently passed. Some of you may remember him. It's really dear. As we said, you know, the problem we've got right now in substance abuse is a lot like the problem we had on AIDS back in the late 80s. It was something that carried a lot of stigma, and people kept wanting to just push it away. And what was happening is every year, the number of people who had the problem kept going up, and the government was always a day late and a dollar short on doing anything about it. And then a little boy named Ryan White stood up and said, I have AIDS. And the world changed. Congress, Democrats and Republicans, said, this is a public health problem, and it's time for us to put resources in to fix it. So we put the money into research, and we put the money into treatment. And there are many, many people who are alive today because we brought down the rate of new infection, and we brought down the death rate so that people who have it are able to survive and live full lives. We can make a difference, but we've got to be willing to invest the money. So Elijah and I put together a plan that's basically $100 billion over 10 years. We've got it all fully paid for. And the idea is to push that money directly down into the communities, into the tribal reservations that are dealing with this problem on the front lines. And to say, use it where you need the help the most. Is it bringing people in the door? Is it giving them residential treatment? Is it long-term support? But there's going to be enough federal money there to be able to get treatment to our brothers and sisters who are caught in addiction. You know, when I was up in North Country, we talked about, I visited a residential treatment center. You know what they needed money for the most? They needed money for buses. Because people who were ready to make the transition out couldn't get to a place to work because they were stuck out in a very remote location. But they needed to be able to come back at night. They needed to still be where they had some support. The idea here is not to dictate from Washington what the solution is. The idea is to say, you tell us what you need, and then you've got to keep numbers on it. I believe in accountability. You got to report on. When you report on what you're doing, we'll make sure you've got the support you need, and we're going to bring down this addiction rate. When we put the money into treatment, we can treat addiction like the public health crisis that it is and take the pressure off our criminal justice system. Yes.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
My name's Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
I've been
Yay!
a nurse
You've delivered lots of babies.
I have a student I'm teaching, and I watch a delivery, like tears come to my eyes still, even now, because it's just such an intimate moment.
Yes, it is.
So I thought I was going to talk to you about maternal mortality, which is increasing in this country, but I want to continue on substance use disorder.
Okay.
Because I have a daughter with substance use disorder, and I have 5 kids, 8 grandkids, and so back in about 2000,
You are truly blessed.
I am so blessed. So about 2013, I saw the crisis that was happening. I saw it as a mom and a grandmother. I saw it as a midwife treating people. So I went back to school for a fellowship in nursing leadership and designed a program for substance use disorder. And it took about 3 or 4 years, but we ended up getting a grant and started a program for pregnant women with substance use disorder. And we did get the money. I was working in Massachusetts, so we did get it from Massachusetts, from the Health Policy Commission. But and I have 4 other midwives that have started programs in New Hampshire for substance use disorder that are very effective. And then when the CARA bill went through, nurse midwives were left off of that bill so that we couldn't prescribe Subutex because it's controlled, right? And then nurse midwives are also paid at a lower reimbursement than physicians, which denies access to our care. Right now, I'm working down at Brigham and Women's Hospital as a director, and we have women that want midwives that can't get them, right? So we're being denied access. And I guess my question is that I feel like our profession in this country, we're boots on the ground, we see what needs to happen, like we can make things happen pretty inexpensively, but then there's all these other interests and powers, like you were talking about, whether it's pharmaceuticals or bigger organizations that impede our ability to actually bring the care. The grant that we got for substance use disorder, we got $1 million, and we cared for about 70 people. I could have cared for a lot more people, with that $1 million, but part of it was research, which is complicated. So I guess my question to you is, it's great to have the money, and it's great to have it for the communities, but what about like advanced practice nursing and some of the other people that are being denied access to that money?
So when I say communities, I mean people who are providing locally on the ground. So it is you. And that's the whole point, is that show us what works. This should not come from Washington. This should be what works on the ground for you. Because the truth is, the problems are not the same everywhere. Even the drug of choice is not the same everywhere. You get different issues in different places. So it's about accountability. You gotta show how many people you're treating, and you gotta show what the long-term effects are. Not just how you held on to them for 30 days, right? It's gotta be long-term. But it's to push it down to your level. It's not just one, it's everything that's going on at the ground level. Let me add a second part to this. Can I just ask, if you feel like it, how many people in here either know someone, love someone who's been caught in substance abuse? Yeah. These are our families, right? These are our children. These are our brothers and sisters, moms. These are our folks. And we need to make the commitment that they will get the health care that they need. I want to just add one second part to this, since I got a second question on it. And that is, we also need real accountability for the people who made this happen.
Right.
You watch this all in the drug industry. People who knew what they were selling, and they knew what the implications were, but they continued to make profits from it. We watched it with banking. People who knew that they were selling those mortgages that were costing people their homes, that they were running up risk, but they continued to make the profits from it. Banks that have been caught laundering money for drug dealers, for terrorists, not once, but repeatedly. And each time, think about what happens in our system. If the company gets caught, the company pays a fine, but the people who actually made the decision, man, they get bonuses, right? They keep their jobs. They walk out. So for me, a part of beating back the corruption in our system is to say, when these corporate executives knowingly sign off on things that are going to hurt people, then they can be held personally responsible. That's the America of real accountability.
So I'm Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. I'm a reading teacher. I teach high school kids who can't read.
Yep.
Which happens. So quick shout out. Thank you for your environmental policies.
Yes.
What I want to talk about is that we have a racist in chief in the White House.
Yes.
And that more and more people are emboldened to express their racism. I just read about a Detroit high school team. A lot of kids took the knee, and the team they were playing against were things were thrown, they're spit on, they're called the N-word. How do we address this? If you use the word racist, people just get angrier and more racist.
So here's how I see this. Donald Trump has a strategy. This is not just something random. Donald Trump believes that he can prosper by setting people against people. White against black and brown, Christian against Muslim, straight against gay, and particularly trans, everyone against immigrants, particularly immigrants of color. His plan is to set people against people, hoping that so long as everyone is fighting each other, that no one will notice that Donald Trump and his corrupt cronies are robbing this nation of both its president, who sets a very different standard, but it also starts right. It starts with how we build a movement together. This is the difference. I know I talked about this. This is the difference between billionaires financing campaigns, whether it's their own campaign or financing them for other people, and having to build a grassroots campaign. Because what's at the heart of a grassroots campaign is we're doing this together, which means we're going to pick up each other's fights. So your principal fight may be the environment. Yours may be education. Yours may be healthcare, right? Maybe about substance abuse. But the idea is we're going to help each other in these fights. We're going to bring these fights together. And we're going to say the problem we've got in this country is a government that is not working for our kids. It's not working for people who are sick. It's not working for our people. And if we build that grassroots movement together, if we fight back against the influence of giant corporations and billionaires, the door has opened just a crack in 2020 that we actually have a chance to make big structural change. And part of that is we're going to embrace each other's fights on race. So there we go. See you, Barton.
And you. I've just moved up here from Massachusetts, where I voted you in twice.
Okay, Barton, I'm going to...
I vote who personally... to talk.
Okay.
I'm very worried about the phrase Medicare for all, not the concept. The thing is that there are people who hate Medicare. And I don't mean the people who are on it, people who have it. It's the people in their 40s and 50s who are trying to figure out the bills for their parents.
Yeah.
And it's a nightmare. I went through it about 30 years ago. It's a nightmare. I'm 69. I've been eligible for 5 years. I'm lucky enough to be still working full time, and I have employer-paid insurance because I don't want Medicare. We need a slight adjustment. It needs to be explained better.
Okay.
I would love to hear you say, every time you say Medicare for all, immediately adjust it with medical care for all. This is not your father's Medicare.
Okay. All right. Point. Let me tell you what drives me in this. It's that the healthcare system we've got right now is just not working. It's just not working. Folks with insurance are paying more in premiums every year, They have higher deductibles, they have higher copays, they have more doctors that aren't covered, more prescription medications that aren't covered. It's just not working for folks. Did you see the other day, a couple of weeks ago, a story about people who had been hospitalized who had health insurance? And now they're getting sued by their hospitals because of what the health insurance won't pay. They thought they had good insurance. And I meet people all the time. I was in Indianola, Iowa. A man and his wife come up to me and they said, I just want you to know we have blue ribbon insurance, the best, the top, the greatest. And he said, I loved my insurance. Right up until he had an aneurysm, she was diagnosed with cancer. And he said, and with our premium insurance, we're now $100,000 out of pocket on uncovered medical costs. So we gotta find a way to do better. And here's the approach I wanna use. Part one is reduce the cost of prescription drugs. Anybody in here use insulin or know somebody who uses insulin? EpiPens? We can bring down the cost of those by presidential order. We actually have the capacity to do that. We just need a president who's willing to do it. I'm willing to do it. That's a place to start. Choice in the system. So whatever we call it, I hear your point, Barton, whatever we call it, it's full health care coverage. Full health care coverage for everyone. And the idea is you can stay where you are, or you can opt in to the full health care coverage for everyone. Lower the age of Medicare to 50. Anybody who wants in it can come into it. Expand the coverage that Medicare offers so it covers hearing and dental and vision and long-term care. Can we have a round of applause for long-term? 100%. If you're under 18, it's offered to you for free. What do you think, sweetie? Right? If your family income is under $50,000, family of four, it's offered for free. It's a small price for anyone else, but let's give people the choice to be able to experience what healthcare is like without having to do a lot of paperwork, and what healthcare is like without an insurance company standing right in the middle. And then let's work on the words, but let's get healthcare. Let's let lots of people experience that, and then we'll vote on whether we want to move to having everybody covered under what is still called Medicare for All, but I understand, Barton, you want a new name for it. Is that good? Hi.
Hello, Senator. My name's Colin.
Hi, Colin.
Thanks for coming to Ride. I work in regional planning, and my question is kind of related to climate change and those most vulnerable to it. Especially up here in New England and in colder climates. As a family or a household gets closer to the poverty level, the proportion of their costs for home heating goes up.
Yep.
And similarly, as we get more and more days over 90 degrees in the summer, seniors, young children, other folks are going to be more vulnerable to that heat. So, wondering what you would do specifically. I look around and I don't know why there aren't more solar panels on buildings. And when we talk about energy independence,
yes,
what are you going to do to make energy cheaper, more affordable, improve the infrastructure that it moves around on, and make solar panels easier for the average homeowner, and especially the low-income folks to afford that?
So that is a great question. I like that question. And I'm going to give, if you'll let me here, I'm going to give the big climate answer on this one because it's so important. Climate change threatens every living thing on this planet. And we're running out of time. The single scariest thing to me is every time the scientists go collect new data and report on it, the problem is worse than they thought it was. So whatever projections they had made on how bad it is and how much time we've got left, the problem is worse and the time left is even shorter. So I see this as we need an all of the above strategy. We gotta go at this in every direction we can. On day one, I will do everything, I love saying this, a president can do all by herself. regulatory tools and use them. I worked with industries that we can say no new houses or buildings built after 2028, zero carbon emission. After 2030, new cars and light duty trucks, zero carbon emission. After 2035, all electric production, zero carbon emission. That will cut carbon emissions in this country by 70%. 70%. And yeah, we got to. Part of it is solar, part of it is going to be about distributed generation. The good news is the price of producing it is going down. We need better storage, which we don't have. We've made some improvement, but not nearly enough. But I'm not even clear that we're going to be using the old the notion of you produce power at one central place and then send it out across wires. You know, there's a lot of talk now. We may move in a completely different direction, so that everybody is getting solar or wind directly, and you just store it. And you store it in batteries as we get better battery storage, that you run your house off that, you run your vehicles off that. We're gonna have to make the investment. So my proposal on this is we increase by 10-fold the amount of research and development money that we put in. We need to innovate ourselves out of this crisis. And whatever is developed, you can build without, you don't have to worry about the patents so long as you build it here in the United States. That's about 1.2 million new manufacturing jobs in America. And then we sell it, we give it away. And we do it not only here at home, but all around the world. We need to bring down carbon emissions and start cleaning up the air, cleaning up the water all around the world. So I'm in on every part of this because we have no alternative. This is the existential threat. And this is one where we need a president who leads the world. Oh, Donald Trump is leading the world. He's just leading it in the wrong direction on climate. Fight back against climate change. We're running out of time. So I'm in. Yeah, is that it? Okay. Let me just say as we do this, I want to tell you one more story about a toaster. You didn't see that coming, right? Okay, so here's the story. When I was a young mom, toasters could burn down people's houses. And the way that happened is those little toaster ovens, they didn't have automatic shut-off switches. So it was entirely possible to put 4 slices of bread in one of those little toaster ovens, flick it on, hear the baby cry, run down to the other end of the house, deal with the baby a little longer than you thought you had, and when you came back, the flames would be leaping off the bread by 8 to 10 inches, right? And you could catch the kitchen curtains on fire and the kitchen cabinets and so on. Ask me how I know. The only thing I will admit to is when I was a young mom, my daddy actually bought me a fire extinguisher for Christmas. Hung it on my kitchen wall. That stepped in, Consumer Product Safety Commission, and they said, enough. You can't sell toasters in America that have a 1 in 5 chance of burning down somebody's house, and that was the end. They put shut-off valves, and we were done. No more toaster fires that burned down people's houses. By the early 2000s in America, mortgages in this country were so complex and so dangerous, they had a 1 in 5 chance of costing a family their home. Not through fire, but through foreclosure. Only this time, the federal government was not on the side of the people. It was deeply in the pocket of the banks. So deep, they encouraged them to keep selling those mortgages until they crashed the entire economy. That was 2008. So after that, I had an idea. I said, how about we have an agency that is just like the agency for toasters, only this one's for mortgages, credit cards, student loans, payday loans, just to make sure people don't get cheated on them. So I went down to Washington. I was not in elected office. I went down to Washington and I talked to everybody I could, every elected official, every regulator I could, about this idea. And people said basically the same two things to me. First, that is a great idea. You could actually make a real difference, structural change. And second, don't even try. Don't try, because you'll be up against Wall Street, you'll be up against the big banks, you'll be up against big money, you'll be up against all the Republicans, and shoot, you're going to be up against half the Democrats. You can't get it done. I get it. Big structural change is hard, but it was the right thing to do. So we got in the fight, and we took on Wall Street, and we took on the big money, and in 2010, Barack Obama signed that agency into law. To return more than $12 billion directly to people they cheated. Not bad. We can make government work for the... Learned that even if big money doesn't like it, even if big donors don't like it, we need big ideas to solve the big problems of our time. We need big ideas to inspire people to get out and vote and to bring their friends to get out and vote. We need big ideas so that everyone in the world will know who and what Democrats fight for. And we need big ideas to take back the Senate and we need to be willing to fight for them. I get it, that it is easy to give up on big ideas. And you can make yourself sound very, very smart by doing that. But when we give up on big ideas, we give up on the people who those ideas would have helped. And those people are already in a fight. People struggling to pay their medical bills are already in a fight. People crushed by student loan debt are already stopped by the police because of the color of their skin or denied the right to vote are already in a fight, and those I'm not running a campaign that is shaped by consultants or with proposals that are carefully designed not to offend big donors. I passed that stop sign a long time ago. Fighting for working families. I am running a campaign from the heart because I believe that 2020 is our time. And if the best that Democrats can offer is business as usual after Donald Trump, then Democrats will lose. Yeah. Democrats, we have solutions that are big enough to match the problems in people's lives. And 2020 is our chance to do this. 2020 is our time. It is our time to win the fight for a Green New Deal and save this planet. Yes. And invest in an entire If you believe this is the moment in history when we can do this, then join me. Go to ElizabethWarren.com, pitch in $5, volunteer an hour, but join this fight. because that's how we're going to make real change in this country. 2020, it's our time to dream big, fight hard, and win.